investing in India and expanding their operations in India. And this sets a good example for other Mittelstand German companies also to follow and look at India as an important destination. Friends, I would like to start with a quote from our own Mr. Gautam Adani, chairperson and founder of the Adani Group, and as they say, Asia's richest man actually. He said, business is all about risk taking and managing uncertainties and turbulence. And how true, friends? We saw 2021, we saw the impact of pandemic, and it was perhaps for the first time in the history that it was not only one region that was impacted, but the whole globe or so many countries were impacted with the pandemic. Then as we thought we were recovering well from the pandemic, 22 started off well, the business started well, and now we have run into the Ukraine-Russian crisis. And it's not only the Ukraine-Russian crisis that has impacted us now. We have supply chain disruptions, we have increase in the raw material prices, high logistic costs, and many more that have hit. And not only, again, not only one region, but globally, you could say. However, friends, when we look at India, in fact, India has shown considerable resilience and economic prudence, not only in these volatile and uncertain times, but also complex and ambiguous conditions, because we really don't know how things or what next would be there. We seem to have recovered quite well, attaining, in fact, a GDP growth of about 13.5% in the first quarter of this financial year, 22-23. Now, in fact, this India's GDP growth is 2.8 times higher than the GDP growth for the 20 largest economies, which was around 4.9%. If we look at seasonally adjusted GDP growth, there is a clear pickup in the economic momentum. Quarter-on-quarter growth in Q1 financial year 23 is 5.6%. The highest seasonally adjusted growth achieved in all quarters since 2012-13. So we could say that India is an exception in a world which is perhaps already slowing down. In India, the private consumption has improved on back of good urban demand, which is getting support from contact-intensive services. In fact, real private final consumption expenditure, which declined in the first quarter of financial year 2021, owing to the pandemic, is now in fact 110% of the pre-COVID level. Amongst other positives is investment growth, with gross fixed capital formation registering an increase of 20.1%. Even CMIE data on new project announcements by private sector for July 2022 showed the activity was in fact 117% of the pre-COVID level. Even if we look at the Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index PMI, for September, it stood at 55.2, which though was below 56.2, which was registered in August. But what is positive is that the index is still expanding. And this expansion mode, this is in the 15th month in a row, and new jobs are being created. Manufacturing has a share of 14% in gross value add, which is actually considered critical for overall economic growth and employment. Therefore, we could say that this augurs well for Indian economy and India's growth story. Friends, though economic signals are positive, however, we must tread with caution, since growth is nebulous and must not be taken for granted. In fact, not since World War II as the global economy suffered such a long period of uncertainty, which started in 2022 with the pandemic and now in a way continues with the Russian-Ukraine war. However, friends, as we celebrated here in India, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, though pressures on growth are coming in the short term, I think it is important that we have faith in our economy, that the India growth story would accelerate and we would continue to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world. Even if we look at the forecast, there have been changes in the forecast. We started the year with a growth forecast of about almost 8.5%, which now various agencies have brought down to 7%. But even with 7%, we would still continue to be the fastest growing economy in the world. Now, looking at the manufacturing sector, friends, today only 8 to 10% of the tasks in manufacturing processes are automated. Now, there is a potential, there's a huge potential to increase this to 20 to 25% in the next 5 to 6 years. So, manufacturing is undergoing a paradigm shift to make it smart. So, we speak about smart manufacturing. But friends, what is smart manufacturing? In fact, smart manufacturing is an end-to-end solution of manufacturing, right from sourcing, procurement, processing, manufacturing, distribution, and warehousing, all interlinked and connected together in an automated way. This entails communication with suppliers, communication with your customers, that is very important. And not only that, but there has to be communication amongst machines also, so that data can be transferred and data can be exchanged. In fact, we are merging physical with virtual to make manufacturing CES. Now, what is CES? Cost effective, efficient, sustainable, safe. So the role of smart manufacturing is in collaboration actually. Here, cyber physical systems will collect the data and analyze the data. And we are using that to make intelligent decisions and predict what is going to happen and manage that to optimize the processes. We are talking of Industry 4.0, Industrial Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality, and virtual reality. Friends, the industry will be focused on closing the loop between data extraction and value creation. Whereas digitization makes it easy to capture the data, organize and manage a variety of data. However, it is the digitalization which makes it possible to gain value out of the data, because there is a lot of data available. Unless and until you can extract the data and draw the important conclusions, and especially here we are talking about real-time data, we are talking about condition monitoring, we are talking about remote monitoring. So to conclude, friends, I would like to say that in Indian context, customers are looking for cost-effective solutions. That is why the theme for today, global meets local, affordable automation for Make in India, is so relevant and pertinent. Friends, it is commendable and shows foresight of Mr. WEISS as well as Mr. Sanjay Chowdhury that despite of the difficult scenario globally, conditions are not yet very conducive. The WEISS Group has invested in this solution factory and global sourcing center. And what is important, friends, we will hear, of course, more from Mr. WEISS, but what is important that India and Pune has been identified as one of the 4 lead factories of the WEISS Group. And I think this is very important because this will not only help, it will also help the whole ecosystem. Because whenever a foreign company invests in the country, they also look at good suppliers. And I think that is where there is a huge amount of opportunity also for the local industry to grow. I would like to conclude my address with a quote from Nobel laureate Thakur Rabindranath Tagore. which I think is so apt for the present situation. He said, you can't cross the sea merely by looking at the water and staring at the water. So friends, things have to be done. There are deadlines to be met, goals to be achieved. And unless and until we make the effort to do things, to undertake, to optimize the processes, actually nothing will happen. And achieving a workplace goal isn't just about defining it. You need to deploy the right technology and also the right strategy. And I think that is what WEISS has done today. So a round of applause before I conclude to Mr. WEISS and the WEISS Group and WEISS India. Thank you. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Mr. Nath, for this interesting address. It is now a proud privilege for me to invite Mr. Uwe, CEO, WEISS Group, for the keynote address. Please greet Mr. Weiss with a round of applause. Mr. Weiss.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nat, for the nice introduction. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight to join us here on the panel discussion. And tonight, and a very special day for me personally, also for the WEISS Group, of course. It has been an amazing day already since we were able to do the official opening of our solution factory here in Pune. It was an amazing day because there's also a story behind the story. As you mentioned, we started our initiative here in India, really focusing on our position in India 2 years ago. It was really just before COVID started. We were preparing, we were doing a lot of things, and then the opening was close to come, and then, the pandemic hit and everything was stopped. So for me, it is an amazing day because today I was able to see what people can do, what also trust can do to something, because in spite of all the problems, in spite of all the difficulties, not able to travel, not even able to connect, Sanjibit and his team did a very, very beautiful job over the last 2 years and really continues to work on our strategy and to build up what is now present as the solution company. So for me, again, this was an amazing day to see what people can do, what trusting people can do, and I'm thank you very much to Sanjibit and the team to this beautiful experience today. India, when I come to India, India is always very, very amazing to me. It's a beautiful country. It's a huge country. It's a colorful country. It's a fast-moving country. It seems like the heartbeat of the people, and the country is everywhere. I think this is something which is very, very unique to this country. And also when we look at the industries, when I'm able to visit customers here, you see high technology companies around, but you also can do have a sense about how many small and medium-sized companies are also present into this market. And I think I can understand what lies ahead of them also in the next future. And as we learned, manufacturing is about also Mittelstand companies. And I can speak for Mittelstand company pretty much because I can remember 20 years ago when I joined our company, we were really a small German Mittelstand company. By the time our company was about 70 people, we had no international presence. We had no international sales. And my dream, of course, was that one day a small German Mittelstand company can also be a part of the automation worldwide. And I think this is something that I can really see here also in India for the next 10 or maybe 20 years. And I really wish the best for this country, that it also can create a strong Mittelstand, because together with the big companies, the technology companies that are already located here. I think the Mittelstand will really add something beautiful and also colorful to this industry. And I think this is also very important. And I think this is, from my experience, doable, even though the mountains are sometimes high that are ahead of you. I think if this country continues on its path, it will be seeing a strong manufacturing base. And I think this is what it really needs to take India also to the next level. And I'm sure it will get there. A lot of times people ask me, okay, how do you see India? And a lot of times people would say from Europe or India is very completely different to Europe. But sometimes I ask myself, is it really like this? Is it really so different? Do we not all see the same big challenges ahead of us? You just mentioned it. I mean, we are living in a world that is changing dramatically. I think the globalization, like it was 20 years ago, is changing. And new challenges are really come very present to us, like the climate change, the lack of skilled worker. You can see it everywhere around the world. So do we not all sit in the same boat, as you say? Even so, Germany, of course, might be developed in some technology area very much, but when we look at the big picture of the problems that are really lie ahead of us, I think there are a lot of more similarities than differences between all of us. And the bigger the challenges are, the more maybe the differences that are today are getting smaller. And I think it's a great chance to see this and also to overcome these obstacles. One of the issues probably which is underlying to overcome some of these issues is for sure automation. And I think, again, here in Germany, manufacturing is highly automated, but also, again, in Germany and in Europe, there are sectors that are not really automated. So also like agriculture or service industries, they are really not highly automated. So also in Western countries, we do see challenges. How can we bring automation into these sectors? And I think this demands new ways of thinking about automation. Automation must be more simple, must be smarter, and must be easier to be connected to. So I do think there are differences, of course, between the Western Europe and India, but I think also there are huge similarities if you look at it from a different perspectives. And this also the idea why we started this solution factory, because we want to take a deep dive into this market. We really want to understand what matters here to the companies, what matters to our customers, and to bring up solutions that are special and unique to this market. And in the end, I think there's a strong connection, as I said, to other markets as well. I think the one thing is the way how we want to give answers to automation. How should I do automation? How could I do automation? What is automation? What do I have to spend for automation? But on the same thing, beyond automation, it's also another big thing about digitalization. I think you also mentioned it. Our sector is moving very fast into digitalization. And here again, we want to give answers. We want to give answers to our customers. We want to understand what really makes a difference, what really adds value. And we want to help and enable also our customers and partners to get on a digitalization level that really brings value back to their companies and to their efforts. And I think this is also something, again, similar to a lot of German and European companies. Also there, a lot of questions are still around digitalization. How can I start? What do I have to do? And I think there's no 100% recipe, but the only thing is to understand what is available and to get connected to the customer and to understand how both then can the next steps. And I think, again, this is why we started to have a strong commitment here into India, into this market, because we also want to understand how digitalization can help to move us forward. I think you mentioned also India has huge potential for WEISS. I think in different ways. I think first of all, we can learn here a lot of how we can improve our services and improve our products in order to make the right automation possible. And also, I think in India, for sure, it's for the future. It's at this point of time the growing and very interesting market. It has a huge potential for the future. And on the other hand, it also has a lot of possibilities when it comes to partnering and also to great people to get connected to here. I think with this solution factory, we want to make a contribution to this country. We want to make a clear message that we are here to stay, that we are here for long term, and we want to develop together with our customers here in India. And also seeing India as a foundation for our businesses and also opportunities in APEC. I think geographically, also India offers a perfect gateway to these markets. And I think with our solution company here in Pune, we can support all our activities in this market as well. With the solution factory, also there comes a global sourcing center. And I think this is also another aspect of our activities here. You mentioned it, there are a lot of great suppliers here, and we also want to connect to the supplier base here. I think pandemic was one crisis that hit Europe. Nowadays, the shortage of materials is another aspect. And I think by also getting connected to the local supply chain, we also are able to make our supply network more robust and more robust for the future. And I think this is also a great opportunity for us here in India as we start this local activity of a global sourcing center. And I also think that we can also contribute to a lot of companies here. When we get connected to the local supplier, we also bring our know-how into this relationship. And I think this will also help the supplier base here to grow, especially the medium and smaller sized companies in India. Last but not least, I mentioned it before, I'm very proud of what the team, you have achieved here over the last months and years. I think WEISS India as a first lead factory for us will become a very valuable member into our group. I think there are a lot of also new things from this engagement here will help us to understand it better, how we can provide our customers globally with good solutions. So I think it's a two-way street that we see. I think the Team India will expand much of our opportunities and create new aspects. The new member also that we started here is when we acquired the IT company Ecotech. I think this is also another strong commitment not only to India, but also to digitalization. I think we consider our products to be the heart of the machine. You know, the indexing table especially, it goes really into the heart of the machine, and therefore it has to be reliable in quality. IT, in my opinion, will be the backbone of every company in the future. And therefore, also by acquiring this IT company, we make a clear signal that our path into digitalization is a sustainable one. We don't see for the long term also that this is part of WEISS, and I think this will help us to also accomplish or drive new aspects and new value to our solutions. So again, Sanfit, thank you very much for making this happen tonight. Thank you very much to the VDMA Association to preparing this tonight for us. It is a great honor for me to be here, and thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Weiss, for your enlightening keynote address. I'll request you all to please take your seat. Meanwhile, we just take 2 minutes to prepare the stage for the panel discussion.
So friends, I think we had a good start to the event. You heard about from Mr. Weiss about automation, how global WEISS Group as a global company looking to set up or having the operation here, looking to increase the activity in India. So this concept of global close local. And we are also talking about how automation can help the industry. And so our theme, friends, today is Global Meets Local, designed to value affordable automation for Make in India. And Make in India, friends, as we know, is very important for the manufacturing industry in India. And we are privileged today, friends, to have some very eminent and well-known personalities as our panelists. So first of all, I would like to call upon Mr. Uwe Weiss, CEO of WEISS Group. Please join us with a round of applause for Mr. Weiss, please. Then I would like to call upon Mr. Harsha Kadam, Managing Director and CEO of the Scheffler India. Hearty welcome, Harsha. Always a pleasure to have you in the panel. Friends, next I would like to call upon Mr. K.V. Suresh, Country Head and President, ZF in India. Hearty welcome to you, Mr. Suresh. Next, friends, I would like to call upon Mr. Himant Patwe, Managing Director, Velo Mathur and Plug Pumps Private Limited. Pleasure to have you with us today. And last, I would like to call upon Mr. Prasid Murutkar, MD and CEO of Comau India. So, hearty welcome, Prasid. Thank you for joining us today. Please come. Friends, the larger picture of India and the progress, the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister is to make India a $5 trillion economy. The initial deadline was 2025. Because of the pandemic, we don't know when, but even if we give 2 or 3 years, say 28, 27, 28. But I think it is important that the government has a very clear-cut vision. And another aspect what is important is when we talk about this $5 trillion economy, manufacturing has to contribute about $1 trillion. Friends, we are talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, making India self-resilient. Make in India 2.0 as we call it. But for the growth of the Indian manufacturing industry, it is important that the right automation solutions are available and we have affordable automation. Because friends, what is important in the Indian context is we have a large number of MSMEs. And India's growth story can only be fulfilled with the growth of the MSME. Let me first begin with Mr. Suresh. Mr. Suresh, there's a lot of rhetoric from the government, Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Beyond this government rhetoric, if we look at the ground level, what is actually happening in Make in India? Do you see a considerable change in the industry when we talk about Make in India?
First of all, congratulations to WEISS for this great. You are going on opening factories, which we can bring. But then it's a real reinforcement for us to say that India is still, and I think that's how we should start with saying that India is still a destination where we can look at manufacturing to be one of the base, or rather where India can become a base for manufacturing. Mr. I strongly believe, even during the yesteryears, that India had a spell in it to become a manufacturing giant. If you look at all, the Westerners always see India as these days we call it as the best cost country solutions. Earlier days it used to be called as low cost countries, and for better words we use best cost. But if you leave that alone, that apart, leave the cost part apart, I think if you really look at the communication capabilities which Indians have, look at the number of engineering colleges we have. Not to talk about the number of CAs who come out of this country, and the ordinary graduates who help themselves to become the back end of most of the multinationals. Way back in the 90s, Ford set up their Ford Business Center in Chennai, and it grew into almost 2,000 to 3,000 people supporting their global finance organizations. So I think India had the capability to become the backend. And I think from a manufacturing perspective, talk about engineering, talk about design, talk about the capabilities in communication. And last but not the least, talk about the frugal engineering and the capabilities for us to find solutions with low cost automation. We had enough to become a manufacturing giant. Unfortunately, the climate was not so conducive for us to flourish. And I think today the government's various initiatives are only facilitating those talent which is in India to really flourish and being seen, demonstrated for the world. So, and now, once that these initiatives came in, do we see that at the ground floor? Yes, we do see that at the shop floor. Like, though I said, congratulations to WEISS, I think we are seeing it in many organizations to really focus on India and create a manufacturing footprint in India for the world. You have seen that in the last 20 to 30 years, after that famous 1991 budget when India was opened up, many of the multinationals used a formula where they said, let's be in India for India with a very competitive price, but do a cross subsidy by exporting from the country. And I think that became a mantra for a long, long time. And people could survive only if they were able to compete in the Indian market. Now, leave that alone. The capabilities of Indians. We talked about the VUCA world. I think the VUCA world is gone for, now we are talking about other words. Now, the latest what I saw was, I think it's called BANI, where it said brittle, anxious, incomprehensible, and non-linear. Now, let us look at our day-to-day lives. I think most of the days we are anxious. Will we reach the factory on time? Or so itself is a big anxiety.
Or will we reach the venue on time?
On time, yeah. The second thing is non-linear. The difficulties are not linear in this country. And I think we are used to these things. And that is exactly why when we face a problem, we don't really panic the moment we see a problem in front of us. I think most of the time we feel that yes, ye bhi ho jayega, we will cross this bridge also. And I think that capability to manage a VUCA world or a BANI world is inherent in us. And I think these talent, these capabilities, and the younger generation which goes through this and becomes sort of a person who is capable of handling all this, along with the communication skills and the infrastructure which we have, and on top of it, the government support and the government investing in infrastructure, I think we are in for becoming the fastest growing economy in the world. And I am sure that it is not the decade, it's the century of ours. So, and I do really see that many organizations are looking at India for the building of the manufacturing capabilities.
Perfect. I think it's a very good start to the discussion also. And on a very positive note, Asha, let me come to you now. We talked about global meets local. That was also one of our theme of the panel discussion. But when we are talking about global meets local, the local system, the whole ecosystem has to be developed. Now, coming a company like Scheffler, you have a lot of suppliers who are supplying to you. How would you rate the supplier ecosystem in India, and what is the level of localization that you have achieved here in India?
First, let me start by congratulating Mr. Weiss on the next step in the growth story of WEISS in India. Really happy and proud to see that. Congratulations, Sanjay. Coming back, Rajesh, on this question, what is Schaeffler doing in this? First and foremost, yes, all that KV said holds good for us as well. And with all the volatility, the uncertainty, the ambiguity, and the complexity that exists, well, I guess that's the norm. All of us have to get used to it. We have to find our own ways how to navigate through these challenges. So primarily, I would put it this way, that we have a four-pronged approach when it comes to dealing with this. Global meets local. First is we have been very clear in our strategy in terms of investing in new capacities. Why do we need new capacities? One is the organic growth that obviously is there in India's growth story, but that's not good enough. We have also taken a very clear strategic decision to localize, as you rightly said, more and more products which we were importing earlier. So the finished product content, which used to be roughly in the range of 62% 4 years back, today, I am happy to say that we are well on this journey, close to 72% localization already levels as end of 2021. And we have a clear strategy to continue to grow the localization effort. Now, that's one part of it. Even on the component sourcing, which we were heavily dependent on Europe for some of the very specialty products that we make here, very clearly, we have a strategy and we are developing local supplier base, particularly for this high special application areas which go into, particularly if you take automotive engine applications, or for that matter, now the emerging electric vehicle as well. So clearly, it's the first approach we took was invest in capacities, and we have a clear plan for the next 5 years to go. While we are doing this, also what becomes relevant is the investment in the intellectual capital in India. And that's something that we have taken up very seriously. So what we did while we started to localize, we also started to transfer the knowledge protocols into India in terms of the development, the engineering and the design and development. Coming into the foundation or the bread and butter products, which we have been making all these years. So a huge shift of such competence has already happened. Obviously, this goes without saying that our human resource capital has to go up in the intellectual capital area. Case in example would be the setting up of the mechatronics center in India, where close to 150 engineers are already on board, and we have clear plans to take it up to 500 housed in Pune here. And interestingly, this is not just going to feed the need of Schaeffler in India. We already started to take up a lot of global projects as well. So we start to cater. So clearly, the development part is something. On the research side, now this is the interesting part now. And what we realized is while all the fundamental research happens in Germany, we took upon a challenge and we decided, why can't we now start to talk about fundamental research in India? Well, we may not have the wherewithal to start fundamental research. So we've been now engaging, we already engaged with some of the premier research institutes, and there are specific project areas where we believe holds a bright future in terms of the evolving landscape that we see, that we must continue to collaborate and get into fundamental research. So while we are already doing a lot of work with them on the applied research part of it, but on the fundamental research as well. To name a few, particularly if one were to talk about coatings, which are going to enhance the performance of the products we make, that's an area which is unexplored with new material coatings, new technology of coating. So we have started to collaborate with. So that's the second approach, developing very strong R&D base, and also investments in terms of the validation and testing equipments, which we are aggressively doing in all our locations here in India. The third, I would say, is also very interestingly, which is the global Schaeffler strategy, and which I believe is complementing the India growth story, is the acquisitions we are making strategically over the last few years in areas which is, I would call it emerging or new energy systems. Let me put it that way. There's a lot of talk about hydrogen right now. And interestingly, Schaeffler has been very active, and we have a very clear mandate on what we want to do here in the hydrogen space, be it in the production of green hydrogen, which means the related product being electrolyzer, or for that matter, how do we convert this hydrogen to generate electricity, which is the fuel cell. So strategic acquisitions are being made in the past. Not to mention the industrial automation side. Now look at that, very interestingly. Our bread and butter products for the industrial automation industry used to be either linear guides or bearings, but then we have moved up the value chain right now. We moved up in terms of our acquisitions, acquiring now gearbox manufacturing. So our recent acquisitions with Evolix and Meteor Motions is kind of taken the game that we play a couple of notches higher. What is that doing to India? Now, interestingly, there's a big market here. And that is propelling us to now say, let's challenge the customer. Well, you're buying the bearing, stop buying the bearing. I'll give you the complete solution now. So that's a game changer. But now all the three won't work if I don't have the fourth approach, which is developing a strong vendor base, supplier base. And that's where now we are getting our act together. We already are working with our supply partners here. Clearly, that is one of the biggest challenges we see. So we have also started to look at alternative vendors who can join hands with us, first aligned with our vision. And clearly, these four approaches is definitely helping us to take a clear direction the way we want to go.
Really very impressive, friends. I think what we heard from Harsha about the endeavors of Schaeffler Group. So congratulations and wish you a lot of success also in these endeavors. Mr. Weiss, if we take one step forward from what Harsha mentioned about Schaeffler, developing the vendor ecosystem, you talk about, I saw in your brochure, one WEISS, globally connected and locally present. Now, how would that help actually when we look at the customers in India? We saw from both our earlier speakers that there's a lot of activity going on to make localization, to produce more in India. But for WEISS, with this concept, how would it benefit the customers in India?
Thank you. Yeah, it's right. It's connected and locally present, and I think this is for us the formula how we really want to give the best to our customers here, what we can do. Within the WEISS Group, we have more than 50 years of experience in being into the automation business. We have seen a lot of solutions in Europe when it comes to automotive components. We have been in a lot of other industries around the world. So our formula is really to connect all this and connect it to our presence here. And I think this is something that can really make a difference and gives us the possibility to get the best of the WEISS world into the solutions for our customers here. And not only that we want to give our experience to the solutions here, we also also getting connected to the local suppliers and to local partners. I think we also will become into a position where we can give faster and also better local solutions. And I think this is how we want to really get a stronger position here and get also here better answers to the local automation partners. So I think it's a combination for us both. I think technology enables us to do so. We have a lot of experts into the WEISS group, but they're of course scattered around the world. But during COVID, all of us learned to use technology in order to work on projects. And I think this will be a big game changer also in our industry to do digital engineering, virtual commissioning. All of these things will, I think, give us an opportunity to do what we call the global one WEISS. And I think also when we do apply new abilities here, we learn how to solve tasks here in a better way. I think this also will contribute to WEISS globally. So this is our strategy.
Right. And I think it's going to be a win-win situation, Mr. Weiss. It will also immensely benefit the local industry as well as your supplier base with these solutions that you offer. And yes. And with that, I would also like to go further to Prasid. Prasid, if we talk about, we are talking about, you heard from the earlier speakers, localization, manufacturing in India, make in India. Now, when we talk about make in India, friends, what is important is that, as we mentioned earlier also, Prasid, the MSME structure in India is very strong. We have something like 63 million MSMEs in India, and in fact, 99% of them employ less than 10 people. So, to have the MSMEs also part of the growth story, we mentioned also that automation is very important. Now, from your experience, how open are the MSMEs to take a step towards automation? Are they hesitancy, what you see? And what are the challenges that they face? And as a solution provider, what are the solutions you can?
See, MSMEs in India have already taken that step, rather. I'll say they're not behind, because I think this automation in India, because we have been present in India for the last 25 years, MSMEs definitely want to get into automation solutions. I think the major challenges with the current structure, I think, is the flexibility which they need in their factory, the product mix that they need, because the unpredictability of the product which they run. I think with those solutions, if we go, I think MSMEs do want to invest. I think still the major challenge remains is the initial investments, which I think again, congratulations to WEISS Group, where they're thinking of manufacturing in India, because that will economize a lot of things. Straight away import duties and things like that, which normally we see. A lot of automation components still are being imported in India. It's not that we are fully competent enough to make all the products out here. So definitely MSMEs with initiatives like WEISS. I was on another session where another electronic manufacturing companies have started big way in Chakan, Japanese, where they also thinking of doing things locally out here, because yes, the major players definitely they invest, they have that money and capability and money power to do that. But MSMEs definitely look at very leaner and very simpler way of automation, and they're basically solution driven, isn't it? Because They are serving, as I said, the unpredictability of the components what you supply. If there's no flexibility, 100% utilization of whatever equipments they're using, I think because it's more of volume business for them, the marginalities are growing lower. So definitely automation helps. And I think most of them have realized it, that where a human being is doing a non-value, automation is definitely going to be the next way out of it.
Right. I think that's very encouraging that even the MSMEs are looking towards automation and adopting automation. Himanji, coming to Velo Pumps, now you're in a very traditional hardcore engineering sector. What is the scope of automation in a traditional industry like pumps, and to what extent can automation be implemented? Because there are a lot of heavy engineering processes involved in your manufacturing.
Thanks, Rajesh. First, I would like to congratulate WEISS for bringing solution factory to this country. And the second thing, which before I answer your question, I would like to really tell you one common thing. Normally W is associated with these questions: what, when, where, why. Now W is also associated with WEISS.
Right.
It is associated with Velo. We are giving water solutions, and my surname is Vatway. So, well, that was one part of it. But then let me get back to your question. See, the point is, we are in heavy equipments, traditional manufacturing, all that stuff. It's all fine. But then, if you look at the opportunity window that today we have in front of us, from the world's perspective, is enormous. Today, a part of, if we try to recognize India's contribution to the world's trade in terms of merchandise export, would be around 1.4, 1.5%, where China is around 15%. Okay, so we have enough scope to grow and cater to the world needs. Now, having said that, today what kind of arbitrage that we have? And we always talk about our labor arbitrage. We call, whatever we say we call ourselves as LCC country. We might call it something different, but today the fact remains we are LCC country. But in LCC country, there are two major important challenges. The Western world as well as the economies in Asia are quickly adopting automation in the processes. With that, they're taking lead in terms of reducing this arbitrage. When we talk about Industry 4.0 implemented in Germany, the number of labor hour reduction which they talked about was something like 60% in German factories. The factory that we have, we opened our new facility in the Ruhr Valley at Dortmund, and this factory is I would say, probably the most advanced digital factory manufacturing pumps in Germany. Now there, the number of people that we used to employ 3 years back before we started this project has gone down by 50%, while the turnover there has gone up 3 times, which means this labor arbitrage is shrinking. So we need to use automation very carefully. But I would like to bring the focus back on automation from a different perspective. The perspective which I would like to bring forth is safety, human safety. Human safety, how can we bring the automated solutions to point out a probable accident, a potential accident? How can we use the digital means to capture those near misses in order to make your factory more safe, processes more safe? Because human life and accident-free culture is something which our country is yet to see. And that's where I feel automation can play an important role, because we always talk about productivity. We always talk about, automation, but we don't think about how can we use automation from this regards. The second aspect which I would like to bring forth is quality. The, when you leave it to the human eyes, many a times there's a chance that you are likely to make mistakes. How can we bring in automation in quality checks, in making the systems foolproof? How can we make sure that no faulty product passes to the next station? With automation, I think if we are able to address, along with the other aspects, these two important topics which we generally miss out, I believe we will be able to make best use of automation in terms of reaching the high standards in productivity for a company like, even traditional company, so to say, like us. So, in short, the digital solutions which the automation brings in, if it is able to address those analogous nature of human minds, probably we will be able to address these issues very effectively.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that was very nice. And I think what we've heard, friends, is that whether large or small company, we also heard from Prasid talking about how the MSMEs are also adopting automation. In fact, coming to you, Harsha, we heard automation is very imperative. We need automation. But in your earlier statement, you mentioned about the growing supplier network that you are having. Now, Schaeffler as a large company has deep pockets. You can adopt deep automation, good automation. What about your suppliers who perhaps do not have such deep pockets? Maybe they are like VDMA with shorter pockets. So how do you implement automation, or as a large company, how can you implement automation there, or what role can a large company play in guiding the suppliers also to implement automation?
Yeah, that's a, I would put it this way, that it's a crystal ball question, because recently I interacted with a lot of supply partners, and what I learned was, first, I kind of classified them into two different baskets. The first ones are those who are very skeptical still. Well, I like Prashit's, optimistic outlook. But my experience was that not everyone is, they think that there's still time. What they don't know is the market is changing very fast, very fast. That's the first thing. And then there's another basket where the will to do, that yes, I do want to upgrade. I want to move forward, be in tune with the times of change that's happening. And so we very clearly, we are redefining our supplier strategy, so to say. So who are those who are aligned with our vision and the will to do, will to move forward and upgrade? Why am I saying this? This stems from one important pledge or a self defined target that Schaeffler took globally. We took a pledge that we want to become 100% carbon neutral by the year 2040, correct? And that would entail addressing scope 1, 2, 3 needs. Now, when we did the deep dive and looked into the data, we realized the largest contribution, if we have to get 100% carbon neutrality by the year 2040, is dependent on suppliers. It's not going to happen if our suppliers are not there. So we are very clear that we want to get to this target. Let me share another experience. Many a times we think the government is making a lot of noise. They talk about it. The government announced that India wants to get carbon neutral by 2070. Now there's clearly a third year. Now how do you? So the supply would be looking at 2070 and not the 2040 that they have set. But interestingly, last week I was in the Union Territory of Ladakh, way up in the Himalayas. Very interesting revelations. I met a few of the government officials there, and very interesting conversation. They have set a target. This Union Territory, a small state, has set a target get 100% carbon neutral by the year 2030. So, I said, wow, these guys are more ambitious than me. So, it's coming, it's changing. So I would say first find the right partners. That's what we are doing. Yeah, surely some of them will fall by the wayside, but that's harsh reality. The second one I would say is, I like the word you used, and that's something there is a big need to address today. And I don't think it's being done. And this particular point, which I'm going to talk about, can make or break in terms of the time frame, and that's affordability. So when you talk about automation, what I realize is that there are many big companies who have the bandwidth, the financial bandwidth, the technological bandwidth, but they want to bring in a comprehensive solution across which MSMEs cannot afford. Today, not possible. Let me justify this statement. I'm working with one of the premier academic institutes, and interestingly, they are developing, and this is in the applied research that I earlier talked about. They are developing technologies in industrial automation. How can we convert a rudimentary machine unit, which these small scale industries have, these without any digitalization content today, and they do not have the capacity to upgrade themselves, and they are skeptical. The will to do doesn't exist. So how can we develop retrofittable solutions onto these rudimentary, mechanical technologies? So that's competition for you, Mr. Weiss, as I see it. But then this is, in India, we call it the Jugaad technology, and that's happening in a big way now. So I'm sure there are opportunities here for people who can come out with these kind of technologies, which will address the MSMEs as well, which will make it affordable, because once it is affordable, they will embrace it very fast. I normally hear, oh, upskilling is the key. I believe upskilling follows affordability. If affordability comes up, upskilling is the next step. I don't think that's an issue.
Thank you. I think a very, very prudent answer. And but one idea you gave me about talking about Ladakh, maybe I'll tell my headquarters what is the opportunity for German industry in Ladakh and to explore Ladakh.
Big industrialization happening in Ladakh now.
This is Suresh. I think we've spoken about Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. You also mentioned about the forceful implementation of Make in India that the companies are looking to make. Now, when we talk about this manufacturing, growth of manufacturing in India, what role can knowledge engineering companies play or support this manufacturing growth in India?
Yeah, good question. When we go back 4-5 years, when the industry 4.0 was the talk of the day, I think one of the important aspects we talked about was knowledge workers. We need to have people who are capable to first have the data being fed into the system, whether it's a machine or an assembly line. Second, when you get flashes of information from them, from the machines, the persons on the floor have to have the capability to understand it. Maybe they may not be able to synthesize that information, but make sure that it is fed to the supervisor or somebody. So we needed people who are not just loading the machine and unloading the machine, which was a worker of the yesteryears. Now comes the age of, you talked about smart manufacturing in your speech. We are talking about agile manufacturing. We are talking about capabilities where we need to have high levels of flexibility depending on to change, keeping in mind what the customer is doing. So when it comes to the manufacturing setup, it is two important things which we need to look at. The first and foremost is how good is the product in a manufacturing setup. I think when we were in engineering, just after engineering, when we entered manufacturing fields, we were talking about design for manufacturing. We were capabilities. A designer sitting in a room can really make a good design, but if that design is not being able to be manufactured in a shop floor, then that design is of no use. So important thing is the product has to be designed in such a way that it becomes easier for manufacturing. So that is one aspect of it. Now, the second aspect is process engineering. We always talk about the product, but one of the backbones of every manufacturing setup is process engineering. And today, it is also changing big time. Formerly, a mechanical engineer used to be a typical process engineer. From there, we have moved to mechatronics, and the future is going to be electronic engineers sitting and doing manufacturing engineering. Because we are not just talking about manufacturing a child part. We are talking about a child part which itself has probably sensors. Today we are talking about airbags. I'm coming out of a meeting today with a customer where I was being really pushed to deliver a part where there is a sensor and it's an airbag. There has to be a sensor attached to it, and that sensor is in shortage, and hence I am on the firing line. So today it is not the basic gear or the airbag or the major product which is the issue. It is all these sensors, etc. And the sensor is also moving generations every year. So we need people who are capable of understanding these changes, like the way we have mobiles which needs to be updated with every new version coming in. Our previous generation is struggling with it, and hence they are struggling with the mobile itself. So first and foremost, the technology companies have to understand one thing, that the operators and the process engineering and the supervisors needed on the shop floor are not the ones which we had in the past. That's one. Second, the technologies have to be available in the region. You cannot just take something which is there in Europe and just push it into India. It cannot happen. It will not succeed. Things which are successful in the north is not successful in the south in India. Let us talk of why are we talking about moving continents. So we need to look at technologies which are acceptable and which are developable in a particular region, and that brings in more and more thoughts about flexibility. So in ZF, whenever we are bringing in a product, we say that first, industrialization is important. That is, we are bringing in the line. That line will have parts which are being bought from the current supplier base, because we'll have only one variable at a time. Then we go ahead and localize. For us, the target is 85% localized. So when we talk about those things, we have to have technologies. I cannot take a German technology part and just think that it will be successful in the Indian market or a Chinese market or a South American market. So the technologies have to be adapted, and my favorite word is adopt the right technologies and adapt it to the Indian market, to the market where you're going. If you don't have this adopt and adapt strategy, we are going to be failed. And that's exactly why we have many cases where some of the multinationals have not been successful in these growing markets. It is not because they could not find the market. It is because they could not cater to the Indian market. They could not cater to the developing market because the requirements are completely different. So, just to give you to cut it short and give a summary, technologies cannot be just picked from one particular nation and applied to the another. It has to be adapted. We need to rightly adopt the right technologies and then adapt it to the right technology, in the right way to be successful in a given market. And our organizations and organizations like Schaeffler, SKF, and others will have to really be capable of doing this. Otherwise, we will not be successful in multiple markets.
I think a very prudent point, friends, what Mr. Suresh has pointed out. And I think this is sort of the mantra that the foreign companies need when they come to a market like India. Hemant, let me come to you. We had these discussions, we've had a lot of discussion talking about make in India, manufacturing in India. Now also, as just Mr. Suresh mentioned, the whole evolution of manufacturing, mechanical engineering, mechatronics, the person is still the key in all these developments. Now in India, friends, we have this issue of our graduates not being adequately fit for the industry, as we call it. Now, Hemant, you've been a proponent of industry academia collaboration. How has this benefited Below? And what would be your sort of a suggestion for foreign companies going ahead? How can we strengthen this aspect? Because this is very important aspect when we talk about India and the growth of.
Rajesh, I think you that's the right point, which I wanted to specify in the earlier discussion, but nonetheless, it's coming up now. Well, as you rightly said, for any industry in India or wherever you are, you want to be successful there. There's one important variable which we tend to forget, and this variable is the human being. Now, these human beings have a character of behavior. And this behavior needs to be shaped in accordance with the industry needs. You cannot have a syllabus wherein all the process steps or the automation steps are all taught, and you get a graduate who is ready to adopt those skills. It's not possible. So you need to shape those minds. But in order to do that, the kind of approach that we have been following, or we would like maybe to use VDMA, IGCC, and all those platforms to propagate, is the mid-stack companies, as we were talking about, is we find sometimes difficult to attract the right talent. Now, the concept that we have been talking about is, can 20, 30, 40, I'm just talking about 10% of the German companies existing in Pune. So come together and we pick those students and train them in different disciplines. Be it HR, be it accounting. In accounting, to find the right talent is difficult. Because the mid-stack companies, particularly coming from Germany, have a family culture. And now to address that family culture, you need a particular mindset. And that mindset needs to be shaped. And you can shape it only if they work with us. So along with their degree program, if we are able to combine the industrial training in these companies, maybe one term they do internship in my company, second term they do in WEISS. Doesn't matter. For the student, he gets more exposure of similar culture. And then he gets trained to face the market reality. So, in my view, the shaping of minds is a continuous process, and we need to take those small steps in order to formulate kind of a program which can propagate the future needs of industry through internship programs.
I think that is really very important because this industry academia collaboration, this needs to be strengthened. And I think here, even for our young graduates, to really make them fit for the job, this is very important. And I think when the graduates, as we heard also, Hemant, when we had visited Vishwakarma University, they are undertaking projects for the industry. And I think that really benefits everyone. President, let me come to you. We heard from Mr. Weiss earlier, providing solution. Now the trend is companies are looking for, you are in the line of system integration, President. Now companies are looking at one hand or one supplier solution. They want someone to take the responsibility for the whole life cycle. Now, as a system integrator, how do you see this? Do you see this as possible, or on whom should this responsibility lie? And what is the trend? Are we looking at, say, paper usage model or a life cycle cost, total life cycle cost coming into? What is the trend you are seeing?
see, life cycle, product life cycle is pretty much, I think, in focus where everybody wants that to be happening. And I think the answer to that is digitization, which WEISS is also, doing it today. Even in our way of looking at it, I think we are for all the predictive maintenance for all. We don't want to go into breakdown maintenance for them. So with sensors, things have been talked about sensors, a lot of type of sensors available in market. So you can do that. We are already doing that with with the softwares which are designed, integrating even different systems together. We are not waiting for like, okay, the system is from here or something like that. So even networking them, having the right amount of data for proper predictive maintenance, also to give an answer to him, better hierarchies, so the operator doesn't do mistakes, and safeties are being concerned. Using a lot of camera technologies are today available, which we are definitely implementing, at least with a high audience where things can be rectified there and there itself. You don't have to. Somebody doesn't have to rectify it at the end of the line, having another 10 workers rectifying things. So I think those ideas are already evolving. Those things for at least for the greenfield projects are already shaping up, and to be again with the new robots or cobots, what we say, working along with the machines, is that's also happening. So I'll say the evolution has started for that as a life cycle. It's not only about commissioning a line and leaving it to it, but of course predicting, keeping the uptime higher. Number one, as the first thing, and second thing is predicting things in the right moment and with the minimal, not only monitoring the production but monitoring the health and life of the line is definitely digitization is the answer for that. I'll say that as well.
Right. And you are seeing the trend is going in this.
It started in a smaller way. I think I'll not say, like example, as energy consumption is becoming important, where we deliver lines, consumption or particular equipment has to have a certain life cycle till it gets to a maintenance point of it. So those things are predefined and being monitored. That's more important. And monitored, you cannot, you don't, it's not only monitored on the shop. You can monitor it remotely wherever you are. So, that helps. We have today a software where I can sit here, I can monitor in Brazil what that machine is capable of, when can I change the bearing, or when do I have to change a particular wear and tear part. So those things are already happening. Those features are coming in the new equipments. But as I said, okay, if you're looking at MSMEs and things, yeah, we are at a very, very early stage. But yes, the new equipments, whatever you come to market, I think we already know they are into. So those are already, I'll say somewhere available in the market for that.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Friend, we are running short of time. So the last question for Mr. Weiss. Mr. Weiss, today you had the inauguration of the Engineering Knowledge Center, the Global Sourcing Center. In our language, Hindi, we have this phrase, Dil mange more. Translated, it means my heart wants more. So what next? Of course, your heart stays for your wife as the first priority. But what next? What is the future plans of us?
Well, thank you for the question. Yes, my heart wants more. My heart wants more, and I think for WEISS India is of course part of its international growth strategy, and I really think this is the place where growth will happen. I think sure, yeah, and I really also wish that a lot of colleagues from the German Mittelstand also get more and more interested into India, because I think it's a wonderful opportunity if we connect, we understand how we can help each other and how we can grow together on this way. So I think, yeah, my heart wants more, but it also wants to see more by getting deeper into this market. And I think setting up the solution factory, setting up the global sourcing center, these are all elements that will enable us to do better here in this market. And I think this will come back and giving back to our customers and to our suppliers. This is also when we look ahead for our future plans here. We want to establish what we call a WEISS Academy, because as I mentioned, we have been doing all this automation for 50 years. We have seen a lot of things, and I think we have good experts in our corporation. We have a great team here, and I think we really want to also educate our customers, young engineers, what are possibilities or problems with automation, what is next. So there's a lot of things that we can share, and I think so we also can contribute, to the engineering groups here and also for the younger generation. But I think we can also expand this when the Mittelstand here is growing. There will be a lot of aspects where expertise can be given to people and to companies. And I think this is also a great chance for us to really get connected to suppliers, but more to customers and partners into the ecosystem. So WEISS Academy is probably what we are looking for. And the next step actually be when we get closer into application, when we really want to provide applications here. For us, the next consequent step will be to build up a local engineering center and innovation center. And I think then finally also the world is going around. So I think what we then will have learned here how to do smarter automation application. This will help WEISS also globally. So I think this is, when you ask me what my heart wants more, this is what I see for WEISS in the next years here in India to achieve.
Perfect. I think, friends, can we have a round of applause for Mr. White as well as all our panelists? We have around, I think, looking at the group, around 200 years of experience, if I add my years also here. So 200 years of experience, work experience. So thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. I think you just have to be on the screen. Yeah.
Friends, I think we had an interesting and insightful panel discussion with valuable inputs from our esteemed panelists and the moderator. I would now like to request Mr. Ingo Naingat, Group CFO and Member of Board of Directors, WEISS India, to come up to the stage and felicitate our esteemed panelists. We start with Mr. Hemant from below. Mr. President. May I also request Mr. Sanjibit Chaudhary, Vice President APAC and CEO WEISS India, to join the panelists on the stage for a group photograph.
We'll come in front. I'll take it. No, I'll take it. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.